All right, welcome everybody to Beaver and Benjo Ball Talk episode 7. We're heading back to school. We're back with the College Ball Talk episode 2 of the College Ball Talk series, joined again by the legend G. Anthony Thomas and co-host Benjo as always. How you guys feeling?
I'm feeling great.
Doing pretty good. Happy belated birthday to G. Anthony Thomas.
Yes, sir.
24. Made it to my Kobe year, so we're stoked. We're fired up.
Let's go. Happy birthday, G.
Thank you, man.
Yes, sir. All right, Benjo. Look at you. You big USC fan now, huh?
Yeah, gotta support the team, gotta support the program. It was looking a little shaky against Wisconsin. We came back, got the W. Can't say the same for Ole Miss. They cannot seal the deal, but USC, big dub, big get back dub. They need
Who
to
cares
win.
about Ole Miss, bro? I ain't no Ole Miss fan. You an Ole Miss fan?
I am honestly. I think
URG.
I know why Ben brought that up. Though is for our special friend Jacob Shahada. That's
Special, keyword special.
keyword special. And that was a heartbreaking loss for all Ole Miss fans, even like me, a half fan, half supporter. But that was really hard to watch.
Yeah, I like Lane Kiffin a lot, man. I'm a big Lane Kiffin guy. Ben, you've been to 3 SC games this year so far?
Yeah, Wisconsin, when they played LSU, and what was the last? In Utah State.
Nice,
All of them
man.
were W's. They looked pretty good. I like what I see from Miller Moss. I know we're going to talk about QBs going in the draft next year. He could
Yeah.
definitely be one that could.
Yeah, they looked pretty good, but dude, let's be honest, USC's not gonna be able to do shit against any sort of SEC team. Like they're not big enough. They're not strong enough. Michigan proved that they can win without throwing the football against them. So yeah, I like they're starting off hot. They're 11 in the country, but when push comes to shove, USC is not going to be there to play, in my opinion.
Speaking of USC, Ben, tell us about the atmosphere at the games. I know it's like super traditional and exciting. What do you think about it?
I thought it was a little weak sauce. By like the third quarter, like midway through ish, a lot of people had already left, which was weird. Like before the comeback really came. So I don't know. It wasn't like definitely like an SEC environment from where I was. The student section could be completely different, but I wasn't there. So from the other stands, it's kind of weird. It wasn't the environment I'd expect.
How are the concessions in there? Like, how is like grabbing a beer and that type of stuff? Is it like,
It's California prices on top of stadium prices, so that's like 20
how's
bucks.
the concourse? Is the concourse cool or is it just like any other stadium concourse?
I don't really know what that means. It's a concourse.
It's like
The
the
stadium's
inside
built really well. Like I went.
skeletons.
Yeah. I think it's built pretty well.
They got a big, do they have a big jumbotron?
Yes.
Yeah, I get why like they have it for like the tradition, but there's like a whole like section where there's no one. So that's a little interesting. But there's like a whole little club in front of that. So it's just an interesting setup. It's definitely like catered more towards like flashiness and celebrities, it seems like. Cause like there's like a whole bar area and stuff down on the field.
Well, the
So
Olympics was held there, so I think that's a big reason. And also, I think the old LA Raiders used to play here too, so it does have a pro stadium feel. When I went there versus Fresno State in 2022, it had everything that I would expect the college stadium to have and more. So compared to these other ones, like Cal, you don't see very much. It's kind of just a bowl with concessions just around, but USC's got nice boxes and all that type of stuff.
Yeah, SC is not much to compare to Cal and Fresno State. Those can't really be considered in the same conversation. SC is a far bigger, more blue chip program, but I get what you're saying. It seems like a decent stadium, dude. Definitely a different vibe, but I think we start off by kind of talking about the game of the week, man. I know G, you wanted to touch on that 17-year-old at Alabama, but just another classic top four matchup. These guys are always top four when they play each other, but I can't remember Bama playing Georgia this early in the season, but it was everything you could ask for as a college football fan. 41-34, Bama gets the win.
Yeah, well, it was 28-0, I believe, at the beginning or maybe the mid of the second quarter. So I had actually turned off the game. I was like, wow. I was kind of upset. I was like, usually these games are, really close throughout the whole game. And I turned it back on when I saw that Georgia was starting to gain momentum and score more touchdowns. And next thing you know, Georgia has the lead. And that's when I saw Jalen Milroe. I mean, there's the 17-year-old Williams that he really stepped up. But if it wasn't for Milroe really stepping up, I didn't see Alabama winning that game. And their crowd was right by their side, too. So it was super exciting to watch. And even cool to see Georgia come back from 28 zip. So,
Yeah, back to
yeah.
back one play drives, one by Georgia, one by
Mm-hmm.
Bama in
Yeah.
the fourth quarter, man. I mean, like it just doesn't get more electric than that. Carson Beck essentially kind of lost that game for Georgia. I mean, their defense gave up 41 points, but three turnovers. You're not going to win a game against Bama if you're throwing three picks. But I mean, he did lead a pretty solid comeback at 440 passing yards. But yeah, what a classic, man. Milroe looked really good, dude. 16 carries, 117 rushing yards, two rushing touchdowns, two passing touchdowns, 374 passing yards. I mean, the guy is everything he's been advertised and maybe even some more. So I'm excited to see kind of what happens there. In terms of games from last week, we can jump into some of those, but I think we segue into uh, what we think about our top five quarterbacks for the year. We're talking about Milroe right now. Benjo, who are your top five quarterbacks in terms of draft stock, not in terms of like Heisman race or anything like that? Who are your top five college football quarterbacks in terms of draft stock for the next year's draft?
That's key right there. Next year's draft. I mean, obviously, Arch would have that title if not. But right now, I'm sitting at I got 4 or 5 on my list. I like yours the most in this class. I know he's hurt right now, but I think he'll come back from that pretty strong. I like him a lot. I think if he finds the right fit, he'll be pretty good. Um, my kind of one A, he's kind of 1A, and then my 1B would be Milroe. I like what I see a lot out of Milroe. I think he's got game. I think if he fix his turnovers and kind of get his head on a little straighter, he'll be a lot better. Um, then I got Sanders as my third, and I got Beck as my fifth. I'm just not a big Beck guy at all. I think he's very overrated. I mean, he's not even having more success than Stenson Bennett was having in the same position. So I'd
Yeah,
probably go Ewers, Milroe, Sanders, Cam Ward, and then Beck.
for sure. Gee, who are your quarterbacks to look for in this next draft? I mean, this last year's draft, the 2024 NFL draft was I think they broke the record for most quarterbacks picked in the top 10. So huge, huge quarterback heavy draft. And then you look around the NFL and there's still a bunch of teams looking for quarterbacks. So it makes you think like, what the hell's going on at that position? But who are your top five quarterbacks in college football right now?
So mine, my first one's going to be Shadur. I know he has a couple losses, um, or maybe one loss, but him, I do think just with the family line, the bloodline, I think that he truly is the most ready. And I do think that he has all of the talent in the world to be an NFL quarterback, and I cannot wait to see him with a good team. So I'm going to go with Shadur as number one, and then right there at number two, I'm going to put Quinn Ewers. I think that we've talked about it before. We think that he's Sunday ready. And then right behind that, I'm going to put Cam Ward, who I think a lot of the time gets kind of left out that top number one spot. I think he could sneak his way. Um, and then at the number four spot, I think Milroe after this weekend really deserved to be up there, establish himself as a first round pick. And then the last one that people might not agree with, you Ben, would be Jackson Dart. I still think that he has the ability to be a quarterback in the NFL, and I think that there will be a team that will find him and kind of he'll fit in his place.
I mean, I like that a lot. I like your 1 through 4. I think that's the pretty consensus 1 through 4. Honestly, I could put Dart over Beck for me as well. Thinking about it, I kind of forgot that he was eligible. So I mean, I like what I see from him. I mean, I think Link, or what's that guy's name? Link Kiffin just needs to figure out that O line. Unfortunately, Dart won't be able to see that to fruition.
And we also
Yeah.
think about guys like Dylan Gabriel too. And I know a lot of the time people bring up the size, and I know that's why he's not on a lot of these people's top 5 lists. But I think of teams like, if we don't know Tua Tagovailoa's future, who knows? Maybe the Dolphins want to select Dylan Gabriel in a later round, another lefty quarterback to kind of fulfill his, or even as a backup to maybe take over for Tua in the future. But I think that there's a lot of guys that will go in the third rounds that should be going in the first round, but due to size, aren't.
Yeah. For me, after last week, I mean, my number one is Milrow. I think Milrow is the best quarterback in college football, and I think you'd be stupid not to give that guy a shot. I think he's going to pan out kind of how most dual threat quarterbacks in the NFL pan out. But I mean, if that means he turns out like Jalen Hurts, I think a lot of people would take that. Bama quarterback, I think people would take that. I got Jalen Milrow, and then my number two is Cam Ward. I think Cam Ward is completely underrated. The guy is like I think he's like 24. He's pretty old. He's been battling some injuries, but he's an old veteran quarterback. He's doing good things with that Miami team. He just needs to like take care of the ball a little bit better, but I like him a lot. So I go Milrow, Ward, Ewers, and then I mean, people aren't gonna like this, but I got that kid at uh at Syracuse, the Ohio State transfer, Kyle McCord, man, I like him a lot. Actually, I think he's a solid sleeper quarterback. Maybe he goes undrafted, pick him up, plays his third or fourth year in the league. He's my fifth, and then my fourth is Shador. Shador's my fourth ranked quarterback in terms of draft stock.
Yeah, well, McCord, I think that I honestly I like that one because he played at Ohio State. He lost one game. I mean, a lot of people gave him the flack. Yeah, I thought he did pretty well. I was honestly, I don't know if I think he's better than the one that they brought in, Howard. No offense to him, but I thought McCord played really well last year, so I like that pick a lot. But I
Yeah,
didn't. Is he draft eligible?
yeah, he's a senior this year, so
Yeah,
I
that's a
mean,
great
like
pick.
he's one of those older kids, 6'3", 220. He's just like a
Yeah,
big pocket passer
yeah,
quarterback that I think like I don't know if anyone's gonna waste a draft pick on him, but like I mean, look at Brock. Like look at these guys. Like these high draft quarterbacks almost fail at the highest clip compared to any other draft pick. So I had to throw a sleeper in there. I like what you said about Shador. I think Shador is one of those guys that, almost needs to get drafted and get humbled in the NFL and then create his own story. He's kind of like living like that little too much of a Hollywood life. I'd like to see him kind of, chip his teeth a little bit more and get a little more gritty. But yeah, I mean, that kid, his ball across the middle, which is a hard ball to throw, it's perfect, bro. He throws darts across the middle. Those are really he's a solid quarterback. I like him a lot.
I'm looking at this Pro Football Focus mock draft, and they have him going 21st to the Raiders, which I
Shador,
think, yeah, which I think would be perfect for
who's their
him.
first quarterback off the board?
The first quarterback off the board is Jalen Milrow to Miami
Wow.
with the second pick. It has Jaguars picking first and taking Hunter, and then Milrow second. Uh, New England taking Will Campbell third, who's a tackle.
Yeah, speaking of Hunter, gee, what's he gonna do, man? Obviously, he's gonna be a top five pick. I mean, the kid is once in a generation. What side of the ball is he playing? Is he playing both sides of the ball? I personally have my own opinion on this. I'll let you start though.
I personally do not think he will be playing both sides of the ball. Now, I do think that he will be playing both as far as returning. I think he'll have the ball in his hands. We'll start with that. I think that Travis Hunter in the NFL will be given the ball in his hands without having to intercept it. But I do think that he'll be used as a cornerback. I think that corner is harder to play than wide receiver, and he's doing it at the highest level. And like Richard Sherman says, I kind of did agree with him when he said, he could get a bigger paycheck and become a superstar corner a lot easier than it is to become a superstar wide receiver. But I also think at the same time that he is super valuable on offense. So I can't imagine like him seeing him without the ball in his hands. So I think kind of like his coach, you might see him playing corner full time, and then they have some offense packages for him, and then he'll definitely be on the returning side as well.
Benjo, what's your opinion on that one?
Sorry, I wasn't able to hear most of that. The parents just arrived. Shout out Power Dave and Wendy. Um, I do
All
agree.
right,
I also
Hollywood.
caught the end of it, but I do agree with them where I think that they're primarily going to focus on defense. Corner is just such a valuable position that you're going to need a guy like him out there. But I mean, the NFL is not going to let this generational talent only play one side of the ball. So I feel like teams are going to want to have them play both sides. But I agree. I think defense specialization, but definitely some receiver packages or maybe some back packages.
Yeah. It's interesting, man. I don't really know. Like, I feel like you could put Fred Warner in and give him goal line carries, judging how Fred Warner was carrying the football last week. Like, I feel like there's so many dudes that could play both sides of the ball, but it's just not realistic in the NFL. And with that being said, I like Hunter as a cornerback, like you guys. I see him as like a Sauce Gardner. You know, he's gonna take the league by storm and kind of be like one of those absolute shutdown corners, making crazy plays every Sunday. But he'll get burnt a few times like Sauce does. But I kind of see him as one of those guys. I'd like to see him play both sides of the ball, but it's just I don't think that's a reality, man. Like I guess he could be the next Otani, but like for football, but I just don't know.
Yeah. I've heard most receivers that I've heard talk about it say that they think he should be a good receiver, and most corners that I've heard talk about it think that he'd be a good corner. So that's a good sign for him. And I think that whatever team's going to grab him is getting a gem either
Oh,
way.
for sure.
Yeah.
My only thing is like he shouldn't risk it with receiver because a lot of it's your quarterback, and he can go out and play good at corner, and that's him, and like that's all him doing himself. But he has to rely on a quarterback as receiver. So I just don't think it's worth it if he gets drafted to a team like New York in the first round, or and he's got Daniel Jones throwing the football.
Well, this brings me a good point too. So, is it his choice? And then second, I also do kind of see him playing wide receiver because I know that he might want to pair up with Shadur back again in the pros one day. So, what do
I
you guys think
mean,
about that?
I think it also depends if teams have multiple first round picks. Because if they get Shadur, if they have like one of the top five picks against Shadur, or sorry, Travis Hunter, and they pick again on the 20th and Shadur's still there, they might just take him.
I don't know if they'll get paired together this early, but if he decided to play wide receiver as a rookie, he could decide in the long run that they could pair up, kind of like a Devonte Adams and Derek Carr situation. Um, But yeah, what I first asked though was, do you think it's up to him if he could play a position, or like the coaches are just going to tell him whatever?
I think it depends where he gets drafted, man. I think like the one thing that I learned about the NFL these past couple of years, following it a little bit more closely, is there's so many front offices that are just completely inept from the top to the bottom, man. From staff hiring, from culture, like those where you get drafted matters so much, man. Like that New York Giants team is just like they're never gonna be good unless they get rid of their GM, they get rid of their coach. Like the Panthers, just a dumpster. Like there's just so much ineptness going on that you just hope that he gets drafted somewhere where they have like a legit chance to make the most out of him. But if I'm a coach, I'm sitting him down and being like, look, what do you want to do? And clearly he's going to say, I want to play both sides of the ball. I mean, that's how that kid operates. You know, he's going to say that. So I think you just kind of feel out practice, see how he does. And I mean, he's a stud, so he's going to ball out. But I think at the end of the day, they'll give him the choice until he gets like hurt or something, you know, and then it's just too much. That's how I feel about it.
Yeah, because he played 160 something snaps in a game. That's not going to happen in the NFL, and we all
Mm-mm.
know that. So,
And he'll
Yep.
probably have to declare like his position at the combine or something. And by then we'll probably know because he'll probably have to tell teams what he's looking to do.
Yeah, no
good point.
doubt. I mean, is it harder? Is it harder to be a receiver or is it harder to be a corner?
Corner,
I think it's harder to be
100%.
a corner for sure.
Exactly. So he could go be a corner and not lose his ability to play receiver. If he played receiver, he might lose his ability to play corner. So I think he should probably stick to playing playing corner. Well, Benjo, you got time, you got a time crunch over there, or are you good?
I mean, I'm good. I
All right,
mean,
we can run a little bit more. I feel like we have to talk about the running back at Boise State.
yeah, he's predicted to go pretty early in this too. 12th to the Chargers, which would be phenomenal. I know they got Dobbins right now, but him with Harbaugh would be a pretty crazy pairing.
He's averaging 10.3 yards a carry.
That is absolutely crazy.
97.8 rushing grade through 5 games.
And it's not like he's playing for Georgia with one of their offensive lines. I mean, he is doing it all. He is breaking 3 or 4 tackles every run.
Yeah,
He
he's
is so
averaging.
fast for his size. He's 210 pounds and he's 5'9".
Yeah.
He
I mean,
he runs like a guy that's 170 pounds.
he throws up 3 touchdowns and 192 yards against Oregon. He throws up 260 yards and 4 touchdowns against a Washington State team that was undefeated going into that game. Like, I understand they played two FCS teams, but he also has 7 touchdowns in 450 yards combined versus Oregon and Washington State. Like, it's not like he's doing it against nobodies.
No, yeah, that's jaw-dropping numbers. And I think he might be, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he might be the first ever Boise State Heisman. He might be.
I would love to see that. Milrow will have to cool down a little bit. And I mean, Ewer's getting injured, like open, like he's not gonna be the Heisman anymore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. 2 games already is like detrimental.
Yeah.
3 games, I don't know. It's been a couple.
Yeah,
Um,
I definitely see Quinn going after this year. I think he's still going to play it some of this year, but he's less focused on the Heisman. He's more focused on that number 1 pick. And, not that we love that Ewers went down, but seeing Arch Manning, boy, was that exciting. I mean, he is fast. And his celebration that he started doing, I think he did the wop, wop, wop when they were doing, when he scored that touchdown. I'm
Lean.
confident for him. Do you guys think that the New York Giants are thinking in the back of their head, like, should we wait? Should we wait a little bit and like get another Manning? Like, what do you
Yeah.
guys think about that?
Someone was saying, bro, I actually really liked it. Someone was saying, uh, what's his name? The Cowboys. Imagine Arch Manning on the Cowboys. A
Mhm.
Cowboys Manning jersey would break records, dude. That'd be
It would
that'd be
really burn my eyes as a 49er fan.
yeah.
And honestly, I would love, and I'm a 49er fan, but I would even not mind to see Shadur in a Cowboys uniform. But that would burn my eyes to see a Manning in a Cowboy uniform. But
A Manning
I know that
Cowboy.
Peyton Manning has sons as well, so I think there's going to be multiple Mannings.
I'm
Yeah, we'll
mad at
see that.
the
We'll see
Falcons for
it.
drafting Penix because they could have drafted freaking Shadir next year and it could have been back on the Falcons, which would have been hard.
Yep, that's another one.
But they
Yeah,
got
well,
Penix now in
I mean,
Carr.
so many teams need quarterbacks, man. Like the Giants probably need a quarterback. The Raiders need a quarterback. The Panthers need a quarterback. Like, there's a
The
lot of
Steelers need
teams.
a quarterback.
Yeah, a lot of
So do you
teams
guys
need
think that
quarterbacks.
Bryce Young is Dunzo? He's out.
I don't think I personally don't think he ever had a shot. I don't understand how his draft grade ever became that. To me, he's not a guy that can sit behind 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" Joe Alt and see over him and make passes. He's not that guy. Like I'm traditional, dude. I like a 6'4" pocket passer. I like Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert is like the ideal quarterback that I would draft. CJ Stroud, like tall packet pocket passer. Like I just never understood it at all. Like especially after seeing Kyler not have a great start to his career and get injured. Like why would you? I don't think he has a shot. I think case is closed on him in my opinion.
I agree. I mean, Kyler also has had kind of a fall off this season. He started off a little hot, but I mean, if Kyler doesn't have a good season, that's even more of a point for teams to be like, look, dude, if this guy who has way more talent than you can't do it, you obviously can't do it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the NFL and quarterbacks going first overall or second overall in their career, dumping, what do you guys think that if Shadur pulled an Eli Manning type thing, because I've heard Dion talk about this multiple times, that he would do this for Travis and Shadur, where he would, if you guys know Eli Manning, he didn't want to play for the San Diego
Yeah.
Chargers, and he went to the New York Giants. Do you guys see Shadur doing that because he wouldn't want to
No,
play for the New York
no
Giants?
shot, bro. He doesn't have the leverage.
Yeah, he's not going
He
to
has
go early
leverage.
enough to do that.
He's not a consensus number one overall pick.
Mm-hmm. So you guys think that that could still happen in modern day? Because I don't think that's happened in a while.
I mean, I don't think that,
It'd
I
probably be a little bit more backdoor. I don't think it'd be as loud as Eli was. I think it'd be a little bit more backdoor. Like, dude, Eli could have killed somebody on draft night and got away with it, and they still would have drafted him number one overall. He was going number one overall no matter what. So with that much leverage, like it kind of showed that he had that ability, but I mean, Shador hasn't done that at all. Like he's really good, one of the better quarterbacks, but he doesn't have that leverage.
Do you think that Arch Manning will have that leverage?
No,
So you don't think it's ever possible again, really?
there's too
I mean,
much parity in the league now for that for that to
And
take
that was
place, I
before
think.
social media and all that. So yeah, honestly, I agree with you. I don't think that Shadur could pull a Manning. I've seen that a bunch all over the internet. I don't think that's possible with the modern draft and how it works. And I think that shows that you're weak in a modern draft. Like you want to be able to see, I'm the first pick no matter what, and I can
Well,
go
dude, like,
anywhere.
look, like his dad and his agent could go to anyone picking in the top 20 and be like, he's not going to go there. And it would be a backdoor thing. But like, when it's like consensus minus 20,000 betting odds, this person's getting drafted number one overall, kind of like how Caleb was last year. Like, no one had doubted that Caleb was going number one overall. If Shador was in that situation, I could see, you know, Dion getting involved and maybe an Eli happening, but with his current draft stock, I just don't see it happening.
I mean, the only one who could ever do it would be Arch. Other than that, I don't think Shadir is good enough to do that. I mean, unless he went and won the Natty and like broke every record from here on out, maybe. But I just don't think that's possible. Um, I think that he's going to go somewhere that fits. I don't think he's going to go in the top 10. So after that, he becomes teams that more like are looking for fits. So I think he's going to end up somewhere good. And if Hunter's playing cornerback, he can play cornerback wherever. And there's going to be good teams picking early this year.
I
Like
think
if
I think I think he
Jacksonville.
goes top 10.
You think Sanders does?
Yeah.
I mean, that's completely likely.
Yeah, I do too. I just think based off the name, it's something that you don't want to risk.
It's worth picking him top 10, man. You're gonna make his money back. You're gonna make whatever you're gonna pay him for those first 4 years back in jersey sales in the first
Yeah,
24 hours, bro. Like
he's
he's bringing it's a brand. They're bringing a brand. Like it's crazy.
yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's a whole deal. Same deal. We'll go with Arch, and that's why I'm honestly more excited for Arch. I've been a Shadur fan. Now that I saw Arch hit the WAP, I'm all in on him.
Yeah, it's funny to see, man, because you got Arch. Arch's got the Manning bloodline. Probably that the Manning family, probably the strongest, most influential family in the whole NFL history. That's what I would say. I think they have that title between the grandpa and both his uncles. They're his camp, and then you have Dion, who's arguably the biggest celebrity in the NFL of his era that's still around. So it's two totally different camps, man. You got loud, obnoxious, we're the best versus quiet, do it the right way. It's a very interesting seeing the parity or the differences between those two camps.
Definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. I
How
mean,
or Drake London scored a touchdown on Thursday night football.
Oh, the game just started.
USC fight on.
They're up 7-0.
Former
Yeah.
USC basketball player.
Yeah, he had his t-shirt cannon at that game a couple weeks ago, huh? That kid's a stud, man. He's been balling out.
Yeah, he is. He really is. He's a class
Six,
act.
six
And he was a
four.
great high school basketball player as well.
Oh, I thought you said Drake May. I was really confused for a second. Yeah, Drake London. Yeah, he's a dog. I was like, dude, the Patriots are not playing tonight. But
That
yeah,
reminds me. I saw this on another podcast. Who do you guys think is wide receiver U?
I mean, I feel like it was LSU for a while, right?
yeah, now it's Ohio State probably.
Ben, are you sure about that, Trojan?
I mean, what
What
Drake?
about your Trojans?
Michael Pittman, Robert
Michael
Woods.
Pittman, Armont St. Brown, Drake London, Jordan Addison.
Yeah, but dude, Terry McLaurin, Michael Thomas, Chris Olave,
Smith and
Jackson
Jigba.
Smith and Jibba,
Igba, Marvin.
I think Marvin Harrison. I mean, dude, it's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
Well, Malik Neighbors went to LSU, right?
Yeah,
I mean, LSU, man. LSU's got a really strong one. The best receiver in the league right now is from LSU. Justin Jefferson's hands down the best receiver in the NFL.
but then you look at Bama too. I mean,
Bama, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Bama's
Julio and Amari Cooper. I mean, both those dudes are amazing.
Judy,
Devonta Smith, Judy, Jalen Waddle,
Ruggs.
Ruggs. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are really good.
It's funny how all these top schools, but then USC, they haven't been historically winners. They have been historically winners, but in the past 15 years, as far as national championships, all these other teams have. But USC, that's what's kind of shocking about them is even with their years that they did really poor, they were able to produce first round talent with the wide receiver position.
Yeah,
It's
it is
kids
pretty
from the
impressive.
area, like Juju.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of good schools.
Yeah, totally.
I mean, is there even a QB?
The
Oklahoma.
Bama quarterbacks have been so bad lately. Aside from
Oklahoma.
aside from
Yeah,
Jalen Hurts, where Oklahoma could claim Jalen Hurts, but
I
like
mean, quarterback's a
Mac,
unique position too when it comes to starting quarterbacks in the NFL in their schools because we see guys like Josh Allen, and there's two Cal starting quarterbacks, and an NC State and all these random schools, and then you see the rest of the big schools kind of filler in with these one or two, three or four teams that they have from one school.
yeah. What
But Bama will always be crazy for that.
Baker's Oklahoma,
Kyler.
Kyler's Oklahoma,
Caleb, Jalen Hurts.
Hurts is Oklahoma. I mean, Bama's got what? Tua, who might never play again. Then they got Bryce Young, who's the biggest bust of the last decade, and then
Mac
they
Jones.
got Mac Jones. So it's like, I mean,
Does
has
Jalen
a,
Hurts count for Alabama?
In my
I mean, I
opinion.
think for sure. I think he can claim both.
Yeah.
Yeah, Caleb Williams. Because did Williams win his Heisman at Oklahoma or
No, he won it at
yeah,
SC.
USC?
Williams only played 7 games for Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they can't really claim him.
Blonde dreads, young thug, Jalen Hurts at Bama was one of the coldest quarterbacks of all time, bro.
Yes, exactly. His freshman year, even when he didn't even have that horrible game when Tua came in and replaced him, and then that's when I gained the ultimate respect for Hurts. Is when he
Yeah.
stayed at Alabama
And then went back in the other game and won it for him.
Yeah, and then when he got his opportunity, he absolutely balled.
Yeah.
And that gave him the tape to go to Oklahoma and become the man.
That
Everyone's
also
happy now.
That also just gives credit to how good of a coach Saban is in terms of having full control of his team. Like I think the NIL drove Saban to retire. I think if there was no NIL, Saban would coach for the next 10 years. I truly believe that. I think his ability to have control of his team in his locker room to the most minuscule details went out the door with NIL. And he's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm done.
Yeah, I completely agree. He is not a fan of NIL. I've even saw things online to possibly make Nick Saban the NCAA commissioner. What do you guys think about that?
He doesn't want to do that bullshit.
I mean, I agree
as
with
well.
Matt, though. I think that he would be working for another 10, 15 years, maybe 10, if there was no NIL and all this having to pay players and stuff. I mean, he liked accommodating his players, of course. We all know that. But I never thought that Nick Saban was giving his players checks like some of these other schools were.
I just think they went there because they knew of the investment that they put in there. He had the pedigree through years of winning and having people drafted in the NFL.
Yes, exactly. That's worth
So
more than money if you really think about it, if you want to make the NFL.
yeah, because it's giving you generational wealth rather than just a quick paycheck, you know. So I'm bummed out about Saban, but I think just his ability to have complete control of the locker room and all that in college football, I just think that's not something that can happen anymore. Like if you have a starting quarterback like Mahomes, Peyton Manning was this way, Brady was clearly this way. Like the coach doesn't even need to step foot in the locker room because that starting quarterback is setting the standard for everybody. If someone's fucking off, that quarterback will set him straight no matter what. Like no one has a bigger, ego than the quarterback. So I think like in the NFL you can still have control like that, but when it comes to college football, man, the kids are too young to have a player leader, and the coaches don't have any control because the kid can just leave. So
Hmm.
it's tough.
Yeah. Well, speaking of NIL, I've seen a lot of kids now are their agreements that were made with the coaches. They're not coming into detail, and a lot of kids are deciding to use their red shirts of playing 4 games and sit out the rest of the season. What do you guys think about that? Do you guys think that's quitting on the team? Do you guys understand, or do you guys think it depends on the situation? What do you think?
Well, yeah, I mean, now it's just a straight up message that like team play and all this doesn't matter. I mean, you can't knock and discredit these kids for trying to make money. I mean, when there's money to make, you got to make it. That's kind of just what America's about, no matter what the industry is. So you can't knock a kid like the UNLV kid who might not make 100 grand ever again for trying to get that 100 grand or whatever, how much it was. I mean, it's different than just these guys who are like Arch Manning, they're going to go get drafted. Like some guys aren't going to get drafted. So they need the NIL money and need to do like get all it's worth. So, I mean, there's the
Yeah, but
best,
but but I'm not a fan of the middle of the season shit, dude.
me either. I mean, but that's just the reality of it. I'm
Yeah.
just and logic behind it. But yeah, I think it's bullshit.
I'm going to put it this way. So, for the UNLV quarterback who really kicked this all off, I really wasn't a fan of his decision because he's the quarterback, and we all know how important that position is to the team. And two, they were 3-0, and this is UNLV. This is not a football program that has been good. They beat Kansas. They had 3 big games, and I know that their quarterback that came in this last weekend did great, and they're 4-0 now. But it doesn't matter when you have that rhythm going with your quarterback, and you sit. Just thinking about if I was his teammate, I'd be upset for him now the kids that aren't getting paid a dime because I believe there's another guy from UNLV. He said that his decision had absolutely nothing to do with NIL, and his was strictly more on I need to use my red shirt because I'm not playing, and I'd like another opportunity because a lot of these guys haven't used their red shirt, which you could play in up to 4 games, and they want to do that. But I do agree with Matt where in the middle of the season it's a little bit tough and I'm sure it was tough for the guys who ended up having to pull the trigger and do it, but you do feel like you're quitting on your team for sure.
Yeah, I think if you're that school, man, like you have to sit the kid down and you have to come to agreement somehow how you're going to get him compensated to what he believes is fair. You can't let him walk, that can't happen. You need to figure out a way
It
to,
looks bad on both ends.
oh,
It
for
really does.
sure.
Yeah, and
And
like you
they should
said,
definitely find some regulations for this.
they're good. They definitely have generated a lot of money. Just play the freaking kid, and then if it's that big of a deal, sue him later or something. I mean, I don't know. I think UNLV looks the worst, in my opinion. I mean, could they not just pay the kid the money? If you have an agreement, even if one staff does it, pay the kid, then fire that staff member so that never happens again. I mean, that's just the easy way to do it. Those schools make so much money, especially after those first 4 wins against Kansas and Houston. Like those are good wins that generated a lot of money for the college. Like just
Yeah,
pay
I
the quarterback.
mean, I mean, I don't know how lucrative the Mountain West TV deals are. Like, I'm not gonna sit here and say they're making a ton of money, dude. I don't think UNLV's, but they're ranked 25th in the nation right now. It's insane. Like, I get what you're saying, but I don't know if they're making a ton of money.
Well, think about this: when this kid is in the draft, Luca, if you guys are an NFL
He's
GM,
not
are you
getting drafted. I mean, the guy
well,
was at Holy Cross. G.
well, he's in the draft, they're gonna look at him no matter what, right? Don't you think the first thing that they're gonna think is, oh, remember this kid? That's the one that quit in the middle of the year.
Yeah, and then after he quit, his team beat Fresno State 59-14.
Right, exactly.
Clearly he wasn't as important as everyone thought he
Right,
was.
exactly. So I understand him wanting to use his red shirt, but he should have made the decision in the beginning. And since he was a starter, I thought that was pretty crazy.
I
Now for
mean,
the kids that aren't
the
starters,
kid's our age, G.
yeah, and he's old. He's really old. He's already used his COVID year. You know, a lot of guys don't have their COVID year, but a lot of guys still have it. And you'll start to see guys that are younger having to leave college football before these guys that were 2 years older than them. And there's
It's
7,
like, bro,
8 years.
you spent 4 years at Holy Cross. Fucking go take UNLV to the top 25 and stay there. Like, I just don't understand it, man. Like, I don't get why he left. It doesn't make sense to me.
I mean, I
Yeah,
know that a friend of mine, Jake Hayner, when he had gone NIL out of Fresno State, but Fresno State never gave him a dime. They never gave him a penny of money, except for his stipend that all the athletes get. They never gave him NIL. He wanted to win because he knew he was in the right situation. And I wish that the Sluka kid learned his lesson that way. But yeah, he quit in the middle of the season, and it really was a domino effect, and a lot of other people are doing it.
Yeah. I mean, I just like clearly there's someone else in his camp that told him this is the right decision. Like, I don't think he made this decision by himself. Someone else was in his camp making this decision for him. So I just don't know. It's all
speculation.
it all got in there way too quickly. The NIL got implemented way too quickly, and the restrictions were never created. So now this is, I mean, the NCAA, you made your bed, you got to sleep in it now. This type of shit's gonna happen, and I think it's like almost like too late to have a quick fix to all this. It's gonna be like a 10-year fix. Like it's gonna take like 5 to 10 years to get it right.
I saw Lincoln Riley, USC again. He thought that they should just have all players have 5 years, and that they should only have a medical redshirt if it's a season-ending injury twice. If you do that twice, what do you guys think about that? And adding another year of eligibility.
I mean, like it just has gone so lucrative, bro. You got that kid playing in his 8th year of college football or whatever, 9th year of college football. He's like was at Oregon or something. Now he's somewhere else. Like it's just gotten so lucrative. We see in college basketball, man. We got college basketball connections. We see some of these guys, they're coming in. This is their fifth school. Like it's gotten so lucrative that I like where Lincoln's head's at, but I also think Lincoln's kind of a bonehead. I don't know. I think he's kind of a
Yeah,
dumbass.
I think
I
he
don't.
wants his players as long as he can have.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, so you go have a 5-year dynasty.
I'd want to hear it from someone else. I'm not a big Lincoln Riley guy. I think he's kind of a cornball, dude. I don't like him that much.
Yeah, I
Decent
mean,
coach, but
or just make it after 2 years instead of 3 years and keep the 4 years eligibility. So these kids can just like, if they have a good season, they don't have to wait another year.
you mean to go to the NFL draft?
Yeah,
Well, make it earlier or later?
earlier. Like if say
Oh.
Arch goes and like wins the Natty this year because Quinn Ewers can never come back, he should have that chance to just declare.
Are you sure that he's ready though?
I don't think he's ready. I think he needs 2 full years as a starter.
Or
Yeah.
like, or okay, that's a bad example. What about Williams? Like
Yeah.
that kid's a young kid.
The receiver
Yeah, I mean he's
in a
already done
year or
great this
so
year.
after another year.
Yeah, but the honey
Yeah.
badger would hit him on an underthrown pass, and the guy'd be
Yeah.
out for 3 weeks.
Speaking of that guy, you guys know that he's related to Serena Williams? Just found that out.
Didn't know that.
So runs in the family.
Yeah, that's a crazy stat, man. I didn't know that either.
Yeah.
Some sort of
strong
he's
word.
from Mobile, Alabama.
Yeah, in-state kid. I think that it was interesting too because a lot of these Alabama recruits they lost to Auburn and they flipped to Auburn. A lot of the in-state recruits, but they
And
got
then I think a lot of them flip back too.
yeah, it's a fight between, and as we know, Coach DeBoer is a really good recruiter.
Yeah,
So
well, when you got a guy like Milrow staying, like that shows that he believes in. I think that if I was on that team, I'd stay with my quarterback. I'd have faith in him. I'd stay with my quarterback. But yeah, I mean, you just mentioned DeBoer, man. How about DeBoer's run from Fresno State to taking Washington to the national championship to now being 4-0, number one in the nation at Bama, bro? Like that's a crazy run he's on.
yeah, and he actually started at D3 in South Dakota somewhere, and with his same offense coordinator Grubb, and they really just went together. And then he was under Jeff Tedford, and Fresno brought him back after he was the offense coordinator for Indiana, and ever since he's been a head coach, I mean, Jake had his big win with him versus UCLA in 2021, and I think that really brought him. We're like, well, this is a really good coach. And Washington, he did it in 2 years. I mean, I'm super impressed with him. He's one of my favorite coaches. And speaking of Alabama and coaches, something I wanted to bring up too was Kirby Smart, Georgia's coach. He said about Jalen Milroe, he said that he could start at running back at Alabama, but he also can throw the ball. I mean, that is quite the compliment you want to get from Kirby Smart. What do you guys think about that?
I mean, is it a shot or is it a compliment?
Oh, he had talked about how he recruited him in high school. It was all class.
Yeah.
Just total.
People view that running back
Can't
comment
deny
as a
that kid.
diss nowadays.
Yeah. I mean,
Well, because I mean they're hitting Lamar with that. You guys remember that? They were like, Lamar, oh yeah, you should be a running back. You should be a running back. And then he wins two
yeah.
MVPs.
Yeah, I think that's done now. I think that if anything, Milroe is really improving because he's a better thrower than Lamar, and I've also seen that quite a bit on the internet. Lamar's an NFL quarterback, but have you seen Jalen Milroe's arm just in general? I mean, he's very accurate and he can throw from really far. But I don't think he's a better runner than Lamar.
Yeah, I mean it's just crazy that he had 16 carries and 117 yards and two touchdowns. Like he was the leading rusher in that game, but by both teams by like 50 yards. Like I mean, like that's just insane. That one breakaway that he had, that breakaway touchdown down the sideline, bro, he was fast as shit.
Yeah, he was gassing it, and I think Kirby Smart's right. He could be a starting running back. And what I really like about Milroe too is just last season, he was benched because they didn't think he was good. He was benched, and
Yeah,
he made
and he didn't
more
throw a
targets.
pussy like dude. Milrow could be making like 3 to 5 million. I mean, he might be making that at Bama. Like I might be speaking out of my ass, but he could be at SMU. He could be like at anywhere making the most amount of money possible. And he knows that like, hey, bro, I'm not gonna find a better situation than this. I'm going to the NFL from here. So.
You know what is crazy too? Last thing about Milroe is, as I play the NCAA football game, the video game, he has another year of eligibility. So could
That's
you guys
wild.
imagine him staying another year and then just being the number one pick no matter what? Because Arch would still have to stay another year as well.
No, he
After
doesn't next year.
next, you have to play. He can
Yes.
go, or actually after next year, maybe not.
No, because he was there last year,
Isn't
then
it 2 years?
next year. This is
It's
tomorrow.
you have
Next
to
year will be
be
his third.
20 years old,
He'll be
or
able
you
to
have to
declare next year.
be 3 years
After
out of high school.
next season, he can declare.
Yes, at 3 years out of high school, that would make sense. Yeah, so
3 years.
I
maybe
don't think Milroe should do that. I mean,
I don't
this
think so either. But it is
why
a
risk an
possibility
injury?
that the video game has simmed.
Well, Milrow's probably gonna win the Heisman and get drafted top 5, right?
I would think
Yeah,
so.
Unless something bad happens.
Yeah.
All right,
I
boys.
got
Well,
going pretty soon.
yeah, I don't have much else.
Game of the week for this week before we sign
The
off.
game of the week is going to be, and it's not going to be that much of a good game, but we have to talk about it. It's Cal versus Miami in our hometown, home area, the Bay Area, Cal Berkeley. First time ever college game day is going to be there. We got our
Cal
friend
versus Miami, right?
What'd you say?
Cal versus Miami, right?
Cal versus Miami, and there's quite a few connections. Cal's starting quarterback is from Miami, all the way from out there, and his dad was high school teammates with Miami's head coach Mario Cristobal. So yeah, there's quite a few connections, and I'm sure that Fernando Mendoza really wants to beat his hometown team and kind of prove to them that he should have been there. And shout out to our guys, Jack Endries, Nate Ruchina. Yeah, so that one's not till 7, but the game day's in the morning. So I'm sure the Cal fans and the Calgorithm on Twitter.
Gonna be
Um,
wild.
yeah, so I'm super excited to see that in Berkeley for the first time. Just see how that's going to lay out. We've all seen the college game days, and
Hey, see the guest picker?
yeah, Marshawn Lynch, of course.
We're gonna have Pat McAfee, Marshawn Lynch, and Nick Saban at a table together.
And just to see Saban in Berkeley is just funny because
Yeah,
they're doing it in People's Park, and if you know People's Park, it's homeless park, and it's just funny. It's just
yeah.
it's gonna be
Well,
interesting to see the layout.
shout out Berkeley. Shout out that. That's gonna be sweet. My game of the week is the SMU Mustangs
How's it mean?
traveling to Louisville, Kentucky for their first away SEC game. They're coming in 4-1. Their only loss is to BYU, who's like looking like the best team in the nation right now. That BYU team's unreal. So if they go into Louisville, Kentucky, get that first road win of the or ACC campaign, move to 5-1 and knock off 22 Louisville, we're looking at the ponies in the top 25. So that's my game of the week.
Well, let me ask you something just while we're on the topic of SMU. What about Preston Stone? Because I haven't really been hip to SMU as much. I know that they had their backup in, and he actually crushed it. So is Preston Stone? He's done as a Mustang.
He's done as a starter, yeah.
Yeah. So and he has another year of eligibility or two, I think. So they're going to roll with this guy moving
He's
forward.
a
What's the
Dallas
new
kid, man.
starter's name?
Kevin Jennings, dual threat.
Yeah.
Had a
Yeah.
BAMA
He's
offer.
great. Yeah, exactly. I heard a lot about him. I forgot his name, but yeah, he's a great player. So I think that they definitely have to roll with him for
Yeah,
the rest of the season.
5-star out of Oak Cliff, Texas.
Yeah, I love when the local kids go to the Texas schools, and
He's a gangster, bro.
yeah,
He's only getting
shout out
better.
SMU, shout out the Mustangs. Ben, what
Sir.
about you?
I like in my game of the week. Air Force hasn't came off pretty good, but they start off 1-3. Navy's 4-0. I'm liking this little
Oh, the Armed
America
Forces Bowl,
matchup.
huh?
That's happening this week.
Yeah, Navy at
Army
Air
versus
Force.
or Air Force.
Air Force.
Air
Oh,
Force.
Air Force versus Army.
No, Navy at Air Force.
Navy at Air Force. Oh,
4-0 Navy at Air Force. I
damn.
like what we see at Navy. I think they're gonna go to 5-0. I really like this game, just because America. So fuck yeah, that's
I
one.
heard that they don't run a wing T offense for the first time in like ever. Is that true?
Yeah, it looks like it. They got this QB out there slinging the rock.
Yeah. How many times have you thrown in a game?
I'm pulling it up right now.
Let's talk about this Air Force team or this Navy team.
I mean, they all historically run a wing T.
Oh, it's 63 or 630, 637 passing yards, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception.
That is a lot for an armed forces team. I mean, they always run the wing T. You rarely see them pass the ball with good receivers. And I saw a couple clips, and I was like, "Wow, okay, there we go."
This
Really?
guy has 44 pass attempts and 47 carries, leading the team in both categories. Also leading the team in rush yards and pass yards.
Let's
Blake
go, dude.
Horvath.
Wow. I'm gonna be flipping
Thank
between
you for your
this
service, Black.
NFL game, and we got college or we got a crazy baseball game on right now. Mets, Brewers.
Baseball. I got my Battle of the Bay shirt.
Let's go.
Rip the Oakland A's. I know we're all Giants fans, die hard, but we do care for the A's. We did not want the A's to leave Oakland.
I mean,
Cut that out, Benjo. All right, you two legends. I'm sending the viewers into the weekend with the double salute, same as yesterday. We're sending them to the weekend with double salute. What do you got? What do you got for the viewers? What are you sending the viewers into Friday with, G?
The dab.
The dab. He's sending them in with the dab and the one only the Benjo. What's he sending them in with? Oh, there is. He's risen. He's mogging us. All right. Thank you, everybody, for watching. I don't know if we're gonna do this next week. I kind of like the bi-weekly thing with college football. Let some weeks marinate, but I'm down for whatever, boys. Thanks again for joining.
yeah, I think we could do that after next week and talk about Heisman more.
Yes, sir.
Picture.
Yes, sir. All right. Have a great night.